All right, so how's everyone doing today? Good? Enjoying the conference? Excellent. It doesn't sound like, come on, let's get a little better. Come on, how are you guys doing today? Excellent, excellent. That's what I want to hear. It's actually my first time in the city, so I'm glad to be here, first time at the conference. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Aamir Lakhani. Just ignore everything you know about spelling and grammar. It does make sense. I always ask Dad what the heck happened. He named me after a cricket player in Pakistan when they went to the World Cup. So that's the story. My sister's name is Sarah. I was like, I definitely got the short end of that stick. Unlike a lot of the speakers out here, I'm actually not a typical speaker. I don't do this for a living. I really started getting out of here because one of my friends encouraged me to speak to get over my fear of public speaking, and it's definitely not helping at this moment. But I'm a hacker. That's what I do. That's my job. I actually work for a company where I get to hack stuff. So that's kind of cool. I have written a couple of books out there on penetration testing on Kali. I've been involved in a couple of open source projects. I'm actually a prince by birth, or related to a prince. I'm actually 126 in line of succession of the royal crown in Dubai. Yep, and I am totally single. That's totally available. And I'll also say I'm a ninja in training because I actually started studying Krav Maga just a little bit ago. And I really am here to answer that question. I think we all came to the con for that we're all trying to answer, right? Is how would a prince ninja hacker look like? I know it's not going well so far. I'm starting to work on stuff, but I'm working on it. You probably recognize me. I was on the cover of Time magazine in 2006. I was really proud of that. That was a really awesome moment for me. Super cool. It's right there. Can't deny it. All right, so I like to always start off with a little quote before I get started, or just kind of give some context. And I like this quote because former director of the FBI, Robin Mueller, said this: there are two types of people out there, those that have been hacked and those that will be hacked. All right, well, I think we need disco lights in here now. Excellent. Thanks, Irene. I actually disagree with this quote because I really think there's two types of companies out there, those that have been hacked and that really those that have been hacked and just don't know it yet. In my experience, I get to look at breaches. I like to look at companies that have been breached. And I usually find, especially if I just take an average of the last 15 breaches that I've looked at, the average intruder has been in a network for about 200 days. Now, I know the Verizon data reports and all that, they pretty much give similar results, but if you think about it, right, think about an attacker in your house for 200 days. Like, while you're eating, sleeping, watching TV, someone in your house for 200 days, because that's basically what's going on. And that's insane. And when I started looking at this, I started looking at all the different attack vectors and breaches that my customers were looking at and how they were getting breached. And most of the time, this shouldn't come as any surprise, they were getting breached by doing dumb stuff, right? Dumb stuff all the time. And so I decided, can I do dumb stuff and get, find attack vectors out there? Can I do reconnaissance? Can I use open source intelligence to essentially do zero-touch hacking? And I always went to these hacker conferences, and I always saw people doing all these techniques or talking about buying old hardware off eBay and getting cool information or finding things on social media. But once I started talking to these people, I never knew anyone that actually did it hands-on. And I was like, okay, I want to actually figure out what can I really get with buying old hardware? Can I really get some valuable information? Yes, I can embarrass people if I go on social media, but can I really get valuable information out of that? And same thing with just different services. If I scan the internet, I always hear about guys like HD Moore scanning the internet. Can I get real information that could hurt a corporation, using these techniques? And I did find some really interesting things. So let me just talk about some of the hardware that I purchased. So I decided to go on eBay, and I decided to target individuals that were selling hardware, but I decided to target them that were using reselling equipment. The kind of the IT guy that's trying to get rid of old equipment, maybe do something a little under the table. and I purchased 10 hard drives. I also purchased 4 mobile phones, and I found some really interesting things. And one of the people that I purchased from was a reseller that resold government equipment. In fact, on their website, they were certified to around Washington D.C. just to resell government equipment, and they had all the accreditations that they needed. And it was pretty interesting. Now, one of the things I also found is if you find a hard drive that's full of term papers, malware, and porn, it comes from a library computer. That's no doubt about it. That was pretty interesting. So let's kind of start off with what I did. So I only spent $600 on buying these different drives and phones. One of the drives was forensically cleaned. And the reason I knew it was forensically cleaned is because the guy that sold it to me was a high school student that called me up and wanted to make sure that everything was fine, that I could use the drive, that I had no problems, mounting the drive, because he basically forensically cleaned that. 5 drives were from an IT reseller, and then the 4 drives were just people offloading equipment from other places as well. And then I purchased 4 mobile phones, 2 Android, 2 iOS. The Android phones were pretty recent models. Now, this was kind of hard to do on a $600 budget because mobile phones are still very popular, especially they have a good resale value, especially when you go overseas. Some of our phones that are 2-3 years old, they're really popular. So they go for, they definitely go for some money. But what I was able to find is on the phones, first of all, in the US, we have IMEI numbers on our phones. And those IMEI numbers have a database on whether they're stolen or not. The carriers such as T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, they're all supposed to kind of record those IMEI numbers when they're stolen. Every phone that I bought, all 4 phones were recorded as stolen, and all 4 phones weren't blacklisted. I could use them on any carrier, actually carriers they were compatible with, right? So just because a phone is reported stolen, not a problem at all. Now, one of the iPhones, I was able to get some interesting data. It was an older iPhone. It didn't really have a good secure erase on it. The Android phones, both Android phones were erased the way you would erase a phone. But I was able to use a tool called Blade Data Recovery, and essentially I was able to get everything back on those phones, including text messages, including the auto login for their applications, such as corporate email, such as Instagram, such as Facebook. Their voicemails, they had visual voicemails, so I was able to recover that as well. And I didn't pay for Blade. Actually, I just downloaded the mobile module and the free 30-day trial, and that's all I used, and I was able to get all that information back. Now, a couple of things. When I got that information back, what I was able to find is things that are already on your phone. So if you didn't already know this, your phone is always keeping track of you. In fact, if you go to your iPhone, you go to location services, you can look at some of the locations that you're probably visiting. It's turned on by default on most phones. And you can see that it's turned on. You can turn this off. It won't affect your applications that are using GPS, but your phones are right there. Now, I actually got this from my phone. You can tell this because it says home, airport, hotel, airport, home, hotel. I travel a lot. And this is an Android phone. And on the Android phones, I was able to recover all this information as well on the phones. Now, there was a lot on the Android phones that I bought from eBay, so that's why I didn't want to show that, because you'll obviously be able to tell who it is and where it came from. And just like in this case, I know this is a little blurry, but I was actually working in New York at that time, and I was working in downtown. And you can see I was staying at a hotel in Midtown, and you can kind of tell during the times of day where I was working, where I was hanging out, the phone was actually keeping a heat map of where I was. And then you can see in the evening, I went over to Queens. No, I'm just joking. No one goes to Queens. All right, I actually lost my phone at that point, but I knew where it was, and I erased it. It was fine. It was kind of embarrassing that I lost my phone on the subway. Now, I'll ask myself, well, that's great. If I have physical access to the phone, that's one thing. But can I get that information without having physical access to the phone? And I started looking at the different apps that I could possibly exploit. And so I just Googled, or I just went to the Play Store and I typed in flashlight app. Who has a flashlight app on their phone? Most people do. It's built in now too, so you probably don't have a separate one. But when I just went to the top flashlight apps, this is kind of what I came up with. And so I downloaded these apps and looked at the permissions of these apps, and it was pretty interesting. If you can look at the first app, is basically when you install it, you give permissions for precise GPS location. the ability to install software, the ability to like send text messages, just some really cool things. In fact, the more I looked at this app, I actually found a lot of malware that was related to using this app to send malware. Now, I don't know if this app was malicious or not, but other apps were basically piggybacking onto this app and gathering the information that I just showed you and uploading that to command and control servers. Now, when I was doing this, like in the process of when I was doing this, I actually had law enforcement come to me, and they had a couple of burner phones, and we always see that on TV, right? People have burner phones, and they're like, how can I actually find a phone number on burner phones? And just me going through this process, what I did was I actually took the phone numbers that I had on the burner phone, and I just added it on my contacts, and then I downloaded these social media apps. And when you download these social media apps, they always ask you, hey, do you want to upload your contacts and see if anyone's out there? Well, when I did that on Facebook and Instagram, I saw the profile of the guys that they were trying to track. And I thought that was pretty interesting, because your phone number, although you may have a burner phone, although a criminal may have a burner phone, I guess social media is still very important to them. Now, most of the time I was using an emulator when I was doing this, but I was still able to get a lot of this information. In fact, I found on Facebook, if you just say I forgot my password and you put in a phone number, you'll get the profile back. They won't get a notification. You don't have to reset the password or anything, but you'll get their profile back on who they are if they have their phone number associated with their profile. And it was a good technique to find burner phones. So if you only have a phone number, you can use this type of information to find people. Now let's get to the hard drives, because this is where some of the real interesting data came from. I use a free tool called FTK Imager. This is a forensics tool. It's used pretty often in data recovery. Now the tool is really interesting because like dots basically say there's no data there, and other things basically mean there's just data there. And I was able to look at the files, the file structure. Most of the time, the only thing that with those hard drives that was wrong was the partition was dropped. I was able to look at all the data that was in those hard drives, including the ones that were securely wiped. Now, what did I find? Well, pretty much anything you can think of. So I found driver's licenses, social security numbers, I found tax returns. Internet history is always interesting, and wow, I can't believe it. And this was coming from a government computer, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, just look at all the files that are out there, and some of this may seem like things that you might not want public, including addressing account information, login and info keys, and of course, the greatest lesbian movies ever, right? If anyone wants a copy of that, I do have that Excel file. The movies weren't there. It was just an Excel file full of that. So I love how organized this person was. Now, some of the really interesting things that I found is I always wondered, like, well, how much research now, I didn't know what area of the government this came from. I just know this reseller was basically advertising that they pretty much resold government equipment and they certified to erase it. Well, some of the interesting files I found a lot of zero-day research. And by zero-day research, I mean I found detailed information on attacks and codes on non-published vulnerabilities. And some of them included, this was a zero-day that I found on Internet Explorer and Edge on Windows 10. And these were as detailed as these reports got. They actually showed me a debugger on assembly on how they look like. So if I actually took Internet Explorer and I put it through like Ollie debug, this is kind of what I would see. And they even had the new code. On top of that, they actually had proof of concept files and Perl and Python files that I could plug into Metasploit, or in this case, it was actually a malformed HTTP file that I could run and essentially get remote access on Internet Explorer. Now, my bug bounty account really liked me when I started submitting this to Microsoft, so I'm not sure, they were probably a little upset at me that I found this, but at the same time, it was real stuff that was out there. I really didn't know which division this came from, but I thought it was kind of scary. So the next thing I started looking at is social media and just some of the things that were out there in social media. Now, a few years ago, I saw a talk at DEF CON called Robin Sage. And what Robin Sage was it was a fictional character that was created, a fake Facebook profile. And they friended a whole bunch of army guys and just embarrassed army guys saying, hey, we faked you, you made friends with us, you know, big deal. I looked at that and I said, well, that's funny, right? But is there a real threat out there? You know, can you actually use social media to find real threats out there? So what I did was I created a fake Facebook profile called Emily Williams, and a LinkedIn profile and some other profiles as well. And at first, what I did was I pretty much made friends with people that I knew that I was doing this this project. And then I picked this target company, and I was authorized to do this. And this was a agency that prided themselves on security. And what I was able to do at the end of the day was I was able to get laptops sent to my house address. I was able to get Salesforce logins. I was able to get meetup requests. I was able to get a company information, all by using a Facebook profile, essentially. I did not mimic. I did not do any phishing attacks. At least not at first. I'll show you what I did. I did publish a Christmas card on my Facebook profile that when people clicked on it, now I didn't send it out to anyone, it was just on my own profile, but when people clicked on it and viewed it, it did have some tools that allowed me to gain further access to the system. Now, once again, this was completely authorized. I was okay. I had rules of engagement, but what I did was I basically created a fake engineer called Emily Williams. I said she was 28 years old, graduated from MIT, and had 10 years of experience in engineering. Now Emily was actually a real person. I actually met Emily. She wasn't in IT at all. In fact, Emily was a waitress. I can't tell you where she worked at, but she worked at a place that was really popular with yellow, like orange shorts and wings, right? I don't know why Emily worked. I do have some idea why it may have worked or not, but it did. And this is really the impact what I got. Now, after I set up the account and I started targeting this company, within 10 minutes, 20 Facebook connections, right? Within 15 hours, 60 Facebook connections from the target company, right? From people that work at this corporation, 55 LinkedIn connections, and 3 job offers. And when I mean job offers, I mean offer letters with salary and start dates, okay? All through email. I was kind of mad that Emily got more job offers than I did in those 24 hours, but yeah. Now, the other thing is this company that I was targeting was extremely well known. It's a well-known government agency, and they do a lot of work in the tech field, and they have a really high budget. So because of that, other companies actually saw like how popular this Emily was on social media. So guys from Cisco, NetApp, EMC, McAfee, even my company, everyone was targeting and was saying, hey, like before you start, we see that you're about to start at this company, you're really eager, you're making friends, like do you want to consider getting a job with us instead? And out of nowhere, like how much do LinkedIn endorsements mean? Because out of nowhere, people were like just endorsing, or I didn't ask for anything or do anything. So just be careful when you look at LinkedIn endorsements, because they really don't mean crap, right? Now, you would think the one person that would know about Emily Williams not being a real person would be the talent acquisition director at this company. Not only did he not know, he offered to be her valet and actually show her around, and he was the one that actually ended up sending her a laptop as well. Now, once again, like my rules with this company were pretty clear. Like I could not lie if anyone asked me what was going on. I had to tell them the truth, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't spoof their email addresses. So I just said, hey, I'm starting in about 2 weeks. I don't really have anything. I don't, I don't have like a company email. And he's like, that's okay. I'll just send you this at your house with 2-factor authentication. He actually walked over to the help desk. They didn't have any paperwork, so he actually had them created on the fly and sent full accounts. And this is a secure facility. One interesting thing is, since I wasn't able to lie, I actually was doing a lot of these emails from my iPhone. And I don't know if you've ever had multiple emails on your iPhone, but if you've ever sent out the wrong email from the wrong account. I did that, and actually it was kind of in the morning, and this guy called me up, and he's like, Aamir, you just sent something out from Emily's account, like what's going on? I'm like, crap, this project is done. I'm over. And I was like, I can't tell you, man, I just can't tell you. And he's like, dude, you're going out with Emily, aren't you? And I was like, I just can't tell you, man. I really can't tell you. And he's like, oh yeah, he's giving me the virtual high five over the phone. And yeah, he was pretty upset once he found out the truth of Emily. I actually brought in Emily for the debriefing, and she was like, what's a computer? What's a 2-factor authentication? She's like, is it like Snapchat? And they told me to get out of that point, and we'll continue debriefing later. So at that point, I had everything, right? I had an IP phone sent to me. I had company contacts. I had VPN access. I had everything. I'm like, okay, I've done what I needed to do. I fulfilled my obligation, my contract. But I was like, I wonder what else can I do, right? So at that point, that's when I put a Christmas card on Facebook. It was during Christmas time when I was doing this, and I put it on my own profile. So I didn't go and send this out to anyone. I didn't say like, hey, click on this link. I just said, glad it's Christmas time, bless the world, whatever, right? And had this Christmas card. When you clicked on it, went on a link, you saw a nice little ball, you saw jingles out there, and while you're listening to the music, I was basically using Beef on the back end and getting all your information out there, including wireless keys, all these other things. Now, I could have been a lot more malicious. I could have used like an exploit kit. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to actually do something malicious out there. But in my process of doing this, I figured that it already had happened to quite a few people at this corporation, that they actually had black hole exploit kit running out there. So like I said, I used Beef. I actually used Social Engineering Toolkit as well. But I did find like exploit kits that were running on the system already. So one of the things I did was I used a Social Engineering Toolkit. Basically, it's just Java code. So while they're clicking on the Christmas card and they see the music playing, this is what I set up on the back end. They clicked yes on it, and I was getting their usernames and passwords. So in this case, the username was Lottie, and his password, apparently Lottie really loves to dance, and I love to dance. Lottie was actually a really great guy, and he really is a good dancer, I will tell you that. Okay, so did everything at that point, and I was like, well, what else can I do? And I found this really interesting on the information that we leave ourselves open to. Sometimes we don't think about how information can be used against us. And when I used Emily, I had a couple people that came back from this company and said, like, are you a real person? Like all of a sudden I see you becoming friends with like 30 people at this company. It seems like kind of suspicious because I have no idea who you are, and you're becoming friends with a lot of people. And I'm not a dumb guy, right? I mean, you might think it's suspicious too. And so this guy basically says, hey, do I know you? And he messaged me on Facebook. And at that point, I have no idea who this guy is. So I just looked on his profile, and I saw that he worked at a place called Hungry Howie. Now, it's a pizza restaurant, I found out later, in Florida. And so I just said, hey, he said it worked there 10 years ago. I figured he probably doesn't remember me from 10 years ago. So I said, hey, I work from Hungry Howie's. And he's like, oh, yeah, I remember you. That was forever, right? I still don't think he really believed me. So I just started looking at like common links, and I saw that there was a guy named Derek that he used to work at Hungry Howie's as well. He was in New York. Now, I don't think Derek and this guy were, Bob, we'll call him Bob. I don't think Derek and Bob were in contact with each other, but they just knew each other 10 years ago. So I just said, hey, I met Derek. I started using the same language he was, so he was calling his town B-Town, so I started kind of using the same thing. And this was within seconds, right? I didn't really go recon this guy. I didn't like really look at it. I just said, hey, how fast can I do this? And all of a sudden, this guy is basically what we call an asset at this point, right? He was willing to like give as much information as we wanted. In fact, he was trying really hard to get a date with Emily. And I have to tell you, I felt really dirty afterwards in this project. The debriefing was really, really uncomfortable for a pen test. I mean, normally I just say, yeah, you got Java exploits, you need to patch systems. It's kind of hard to tell people, like, yeah, most of your vulnerabilities were because you had really passionate people. So then I started looking at other aspects of social media. I know that's been done before. I know there's been a lot of things done before. Now, a good buddy of mine, Dave Chronister, who runs Parameter Security in St. Louis, basically told me to like look at like how like all our phones like upload all our photos these days. And in fact, the default settings on things like WeChat, PhotoBucket, some other things, some other apps will automatically share information or share publicly photos that we uploaded. I was like, dude, you're kidding me. I go, no, my phone doesn't share information. And it's because a lot of these apps are now changing their permissions. But PhotoBucket is a good example. If you go to PhotoBucket and you install the default on your phone, it's automatically uploading everything in your camera roll publicly. And if you Google PhotoBucket recent uploads, you can see all the recent uploads. And you'll get really good at figuring out like who intended to upload a picture and who didn't. Because I will just say you will see absolutely everything. In fact, you get really good at like searching for this, because when you click on recent uploads on PhotoBucket and you click on a link, and if you go back, you're back at the beginning of the queue. So you want to like make sure you open up a lot of tabs and different things just to keep your place. And I will tell you, for those of you that do this, this will waste a lot of your time, and there will be things you will never be able to unsee in your life. I'm guaranteeing you that. So what did I find, right? I mean, well, before you ask, I found pretty much everything, including people that grow weed. If you grow weed, apparently you have to take a picture of you growing weed, such as this guy taking a picture of him growing himself some weed, right? And of course, if you grow weed, you want to take all the money you're making growing weed, right? That makes sense, right? You want to show how successful you are. And then lastly, if you're growing weed, why not show a picture of your welfare check with your name and address on it as well, right? The American dream, right? So the guy growing weed, same profile with his money, with the weed, and his name, address, and welfare check. I don't think he intended all these pictures to be automatically uploaded, but law enforcement was really happy that he did when I gave it to them. Now, I also found like different themes throughout the day when I started doing this. So I started doing this on Friday night, Saturday night. Okay, apparently I wasn't dating at that point. But the different themes that I found were like on Friday I saw people like taking a lot of pictures with money right before they're going out. I guess you're about to go out on Friday night. Let's take a picture of your money, right? On Saturday morning, picture of beer, like money and beer usually, right? And then Sundays, I don't know what happened because a lot of pictures of money, beer, and babies at that point. And here's an example of this. Real picture, real profile of a girl with her money, right? And then the same profile picture with money and beer on Friday night to Saturday morning. And then money, beer, and babies. Now, I don't know what was going on. I actually did give this to law enforcement as well. It looked a little ridiculous. On top of that, I found a lot of people just interesting trends. Apparently, if you're a girl, you have a picture of yourself twerking. If you're a girl and you're pregnant, you have every picture of every angle with you and your pregnancy stick. And apparently, your husband is taking a picture of his pregnancy stick to prove he's not pregnant. So that was interesting. And apparently, there's a big trend with people with fake horse heads in showers. I got a lot of these pictures. The hard part of this presentation is what the heck do I not show and how do I not offend everyone in the room? With checks coming out in online banking, I found a lot of pictures of people taking pictures of their checks and credit cards. In fact, I saw a lot of people taking pictures of the front of their credit card and with the whole number, everything exposed, credit card number, expiration date, name, everything, right? And I looked at this and I was like, man, this is good. What else do I need, right, besides that? Do I need anything else? The back of the card. Luckily, they took pictures of the back of the card already. So now I'm good. They have the front of the card, back of the card. Now, if only I had the billing zip code, right? Luckily, they took pictures of that as well. Cha-ching, right? I mean, you guys are all going to be in the hallway searching for PhotoBucket recent uploads. I know that, right? And if you think about it, like, well, this is not even hacking, right? I mean, anyone can do this, and you can't stop it with these kind of mistakes. So I like this slide because I found a lot of slides that people just like saved me the work. They just had it all. They had money, beer, checks, and W-2 forms, right? And I found a lot of different like slides like that, a lot of different pictures like that. Just people like doing all the work for me. I did fuzz this out a little bit so we couldn't see his name and everything, but a lot of information. And there was multiple pictures like that on PhotoBucket. One case that I got, and I found this a lot. For some reason, people are always putting these little sayings like "Don't judge me," or "I am who I am," or "Leave me alone" on PhotoBucket. And when you go to their profile, they have pictures of themselves of very intimate moments. Usually includes a lot of masks as well for some reason, as well as usually a lot of their financial information. In fact, one specific case, I found someone that was semi-famous, at least a few years ago, a Hollywood actress, and she had actually pictures of herself, a lot of pictures that actually looked like they were professional pictures, maybe meant for public consumption, right? Maybe from her agent or something. But then she had her tax returns on there as well. So I did what anyone else would do. I found out who she was. I had all her personal information. I called her up. Right, and I told her what was happening, That conversation didn't last very long. I consider it a win because I didn't get a restraining order against me or anything, so I feel that was good. But after a while, after a couple of days, I actually found her whole profile taken down. I was able to tell her that, hey, this is what's happening. This is your profile. Don't worry. I'm okay. I mean, I'm kind of famous. I've been on CNN. I mean, I know OJ's been on CNN, but that's okay. I'm not a killer or anything. I probably should have stopped somewhere earlier in my conversation, but at least it worked. She got rid of her stuff. So at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, what was I able to get, right? I mean, I was essentially able to get social security numbers, and this is only about 7 hours of time. Now, I did not do this all together, right? I mean, I did this really in 15, 20-minute chunks, but I was able to get 15 social security numbers, 25 credit card numbers, and that concludes front, back, and addresses, right? Full credit card info. Login infos to public servers, to like public websites, to admin panels on WordPress. Some really, really well-known sites were on there as well. So some really, really cool things. And then, of course, I found all the crazy stuff that I'm telling you about as well, the interesting stuff. So the other thing, when I started doing this open intelligence hunting, I was like, what else can I find, right? I mean, I always hear about like things being open on the internet and people scanning the internet. And I was like, let me see what I can find. So I used a tool called Anonymous FTP Scanner. This is hard to see, but it's actually a module in Metasploit. And anyone can use this, and you really didn't have to use Metasploit. You can use any FTP. You can actually use any port you want. But I just scanned, and you can't see this, but I just scanned my local subnet, my cable modem subnet. I was like, I'm just going to scan my neighborhood to see what's there. And essentially, I found everything you could think of. I found a lot of open FTP servers. And I was like, guys, it's like 2015, 2016 now. Like, why am I finding open FTP servers? And I found like a lot of home routers, when you plug in a hard drive to them, they automatically create an FTP server. A lot of them are fixing that. In fact, there was a lot of security alerts from ASUS a couple this year, and Linksys where that was found as a vulnerability. They did fix that. Now, some other routers, they don't do that until you download the mobile app and you decide to make your own home iCloud server or own cloud server. And once you do that, they automatically open FTP to the world. They do, they open up all the ports automatically, and they're scannable. And because of that, all these hard drives that are attached to these home routers, I was essentially able to scan and look at all the information. And I found everything, mostly backups, movies, a lot of movies. In fact, I found the entire season, all the episodes to Thundercats. And like you, I was a big fan of Thundercats when I was a kid. I actually hadn't seen it since I was a kid, so I downloaded all the Thundercats from these places. That show isn't as good as I remembered it to be. I did find it kind of disturbing. I found Chitara still kind of hot as a cat. That was kind of weird, but that's okay. I can't believe I just said that, and I'm being recorded here. Wonderful. Can we edit that out later? On top of that, I found that I wasn't the first person that found this out either. Right? A lot of other people found this information out, and this is just in my neighborhood. But someone actually went to this guy's hard drive and deleted all his movies and left a message saying, because of the DMCA Act, and you violated copyright violation, I'm deleting your movies. So what a nice hacker. In fact, can you imagine if you come home to this and you have no idea what's happening, and you look on your hard drive and all of a sudden it says all my files are deleted? Wonderful stuff, right? This guy actually went a little further. So not only did he delete the files, he actually had this nice template and said, because of Homeland Security and the NSA, not only is he deleting the files, he actually used a real IP address. Yes, you could probably go to this IP address, FTP's open, with the exact same path as well to where he went. So really official looking letter. This guy actually went to a lot of work to delete files as well. This definitely was not the NSA. This is just some attacker having fun with a user using this template. The NSA does not randomly delete Thundercats. So how do you protect yourself against this, right? I mean, how do you actually do anything about this, right? Well, when I started talking to other people, especially a lot of my friends work for different OEMs, like all the big OEMs out there, they're like, oh, we have a product that can protect against this, right? I was like, cool, just use that one vendor that's going to protect against all your problems, and they are. Whoops. That was supposed to come up there. Let me just, that way, well, I got lots of pictures of Taylor Swift, it seems like. All right, so that's all the vendors. In fact, those were all the vendors that was at RSA this year. And you can't see it, it's kind of blurry here, I understand, but there's a ton of vendors out there, and every vendor is like pitching a solution to solve this. The problem is this is not a security problem at this point, right? This is not a technology problem at this point. It's a people problem and the way we understand technology. It's just that we're connected in so many ways these days, and everything is connected. And I think the only way to really stop these kind of issues is security awareness and education. Yes, there's point products out there. There's things like DLP, like DLP prevention, and other tools out there as well. But I don't think you solve this just by a product. In fact, like most people don't even know this is going on, and this is happening all over the place. I just gave you like a couple of examples today of what I found, but I found like hundreds of these on other platforms, on other applications, on different vectors as well, and I'll put that on my blog. It's just drchaos.com. I'll put on all the different vectors that I found, but it was like 100 things, 100 apps, 100 ways that we could do this. So just be careful, and awareness is everything. So that went a lot faster than I thought, so I will open up for any questions or anything if anyone has anything. It's Dr. Chaos, Dr. Chaos. Just Dr. Chaos spelled, just spell it drchaos.com. Yeah, my background was in crypto. I actually am a real doctor. I do have a PhD in cryptography, so that's why I got that name. So cool. All right, I will be around afterwards if anyone has any questions. Thanks a lot, guys.